Welcome to another episode of Mexican in the Kitchen. This recipe is very simple and I'm going to start by making something that is very similar to a pancake mix. As usual, I'm starting with the dry ingredients. For this, I'm going to use 330 grams of wheat flour. I'm adding 60 grams of maicena. You might also know it as corn flour or cornstarch. I'm adding 100 grams of sugar. I will also add about a teaspoon of baking soda, a teaspoon of baking powder, and 2 teaspoons of salt. Once we have added all the ingredients, we can take a whisk, try to mix everything. You can also use a fork, make it as even as possible, and then we can continue. Corn dogs are usually made with sausage, but I've had them in Mexico also with some cheese, with some ham, with mixes of all these, and you can basically throw anything that you can put in a stick. Here I give you some of the alternatives I've seen and I've used. But of course, if you want to try something different, or you try something different, you can also let me know in the comments. As you can see, this is quite straightforward. You just take one of those sticks they sell for making skewers, and you put it through a sausage. One other alternative is cutting some cheese and sausages in smaller pieces, and then we're going to make a skewer. Just one sausage, one piece of cheese. You can also use only sausages. You could even throw in some ham or some other kind of sausage in between. In my case, I bought a cheese that was not as creamy as I thought it would be, so it was breaking a bit. In that case, you would have to make some bigger cubes. If you go for a creamier cheese, then that's not going to be an issue. You can also have different sizes. You can have one sausage, you can have maybe 4 or 5 pieces, you can have maybe 1 or 2 and have it as a small snack. Here I have some leftovers, and I'm just going to take a toothpick and I'm going to have a 1-piece bite. This is going to be a really nice tiny snack. Since we're already there, I'm going to take another sausage, just make another few bites. As I said, what combination you make or what size of a corn dog you want to make is completely up to you. For making our corn dogs, we need to dip all of these skewers into the batter. And for the batter to stick to something, of course we need to use some flour. I'm using just plain flour, it's wheat flour. What we're doing with the flour is we're making sure the surface is dry, and of course we're providing some texture. Otherwise, if we dip the sausage into the batter, everything will just slide off. We will have a quite thin layer and it's just not gonna stick there, it's gonna make a mess everywhere. You'll have a lot of batter in the oil. It's just very complicated, so just a small layer of flour will make the whole process way easier. It will also make the layer quite even, so it will just look beautiful. Once we have everything else ready, we can continue making our batter by adding the rest of the ingredients. I'm going to continue with 2 eggs. I am using about 350 milliliters of milk, but I'm going to add them slowly. So I will add about 100 milliliters, try to mix everything and just keep adding slowly into it. I want to keep mixing until there's no lumps in my batter. The reason why I want to add my batter slowly is because if I make it too dry, I can always add a bit more milk, but if I make it too liquid, then it's not as easy to correct. You might be wondering, how do I know if the batter is ready? The way I usually do it is I take a spoon, I'm going to put it into the batter, move it around a bit, take it out, and I want to get a nice layer that covers the spoon. Of course it drips a bit, but it just makes a layer and the layer stays there. You won't see it just coming off completely, and you won't also see it just making a big lump into the spoon. Since our mix is looking pretty good, I'm going to take a sausage and I'm going to dip it in there. I'm going to make just a few, but if you're making a lot of this, I recommend using a glass, maybe a half a liter, something that's tall enough for all your sausages or skewers to fit, and then it will make the process way easier. I'm going to take it out. I'm going to, of course, let it drip all the excess. Try to have somewhat of an even coating, and then we can take it to the oil. Here I have a pot of canola oil. It's on a 3 or 4. I was going up and down because I didn't want it to get too hot. The reason is because if it gets too hot, then our batter will start to get burned, or it will start getting a bit too dark, a bit too cooked on the outside, and it might still be a bit raw inside. Of course, a deep fryer is way easier, but you can also manage with a pot on the stove. You will notice how it puffs immediately. It gets really round. I threw one of the small cheese bites and you can see it becomes almost a perfect sphere. It gets a really nice shape immediately, starts getting some color, puffing, and we just need to keep them there. move them around a bit so they are cooked evenly. This whole process can be very quick, so keep an eye on them, keep checking that they don't get burned, and once they are ready, you can take them off. I wouldn't worry if the first couple you make are not perfect, or they don't look as even, or maybe you overcook them or undercook them a bit. I think it's very normal. It's one of those recipes that you just get the hang of it once you make a couple. The first time I tried, I got some bumps in the corn dog because I used too much batter. I didn't let it drip all the excess, so of course it didn't look as pretty. These are the few I made at the end, and I think the color is way better. I cooked them way nicer. You just learn the timing, just have some patience and give it a few tries. It will get better and they will look great. Once you're ready, you can serve these right away. Some people let it drip on a strainer, some people put it on some kitchen paper for a bit just to absorb the excess oil. Personally, I let them drip for a bit and then I just served them. This is how I make the banderillas or corn dog. It's a very simple recipe. It's very, I would say, it's like a very traditional American thing. You always see it in fairs and these kind of things, but also in Mexico it's not uncommon to see them, especially on these kind of fairs. In my city on the 5th of May, there's like for the whole month one fair, and you can always see this kind of thing. It's like a quick, cheap snack, and I really like it. I think it works very well. You can also have maybe some mayo. Also, in Mexico, most people will use Valentina on this because we use Valentina sauce for everything. But personally, I prefer mustard and ketchup. Pretty simple. I hope you liked it. Press like, subscribe, activate the bell, all those kind of things, and see you in the next one.